Well, it's November, and I kind of got behind on some stuff this summer and decided to get at it now because it's a beautiful day. And so I'm going to start with my old shed. Oop, dropped my tripod. Making the decision I want to be a little more self-reliant. I've decided maybe I should buy some rabbits, meat rabbits, and raise. And I will put them up in my back shed where I can keep it clean and hopefully keep the smell down and yet raise my own meat. This is the shed. It's insulated on 3 sides. It was actually part of the house. The roof kind of took some damage, but it was moved out to the back. I moved it back onto the property, and I've decided to use it for my... I've got my shed partially cleaned out, mostly. This pile of insulation will be going up on the walls. At the moment I'm using my electric heater to keep it warm, but I'm going to have to turn it off soon because it's getting right warm. This door is going to go into the back door of the house here eventually. What I've done now though is I'm using duct tape to seal the cracks, and I'm just doing a ghetto job. I'm going to just insulate up using the plastic cold insulation in place just for this winter, and hopefully we'll have a nice warm usable little barn for the...
Alright, so explain what you're doing, Benny.
We've decided to tape it now, and we're going to have to restart a piece of plastic. So I'm just taping where the plastic is ending off, just to seal it that much more. You can actually feel the cold air coming out of the plastic.
Okay. So here's pretty much a before shot. There's a big door in the center, all the stuff. As you can see, it's not that big. It's cozy and warm. See this? This is a big piece of insulation hanging down from the roof.
That'll be fixed.
Oh, there is wires running through. Dude.
Yeah, I could wire the place if I wanted to. But the whole point of this thing is try to become a little more self-reliant.
That's true.
And so the more I can do without using power, the better. I'm hoping if I can get it insulated enough, the rabbit's body heat will help warm the place. What I'm about to show you here is what I'm working on for my rabbit hutch. I'm using what was left over when I bought the house. Lumber, nails, the tools, a lot of I had bought. There have been some left here. What I'm going to show you is how I made these joints in the 4x4s, which are actually 3.5 by 3.5 because it's the way they do it. I went along with a 2x6, which is actually 1.5 inches by 5.5. But the 2x6 is nailed into the wall, into the stud there. These nails, I have to pre-drill the holes because otherwise they bend easily, and I'm not the best with a hammer, and so I'm no carpenter by any means, but I learned a lot watching my dad. You can tell it's old scrap by the old nails bent over, but it's not mattering for this project. This is all treated lumber, which hopefully will stand up better to the rabbits. It's a tight fit, as you can tell, so while it's not only nailed to the walls and supported by each other, it is self-supporting. It's using the shed for support too. It's very strong. I can pull on it with all my might, and I can't move it. I know I'm not the hugest man, but it still is sturdy structure. I am using my skill saw, cutting as accurate lines as I can so that it will go fairly close to the wall and yet not, and so it's all supported, and yet it'll be notched in as well. As you can see the notches. what I do is I make my first cut at the line of measure, which is that cut there. Then I make several more. I use a chisel and a hammer to break them loose. Okay, I've got a John Deere hammer here that thankfully my sister's dog chewed the handle off for me. I was so pleased. And my John Deere chisel. Now a good sharp chisel is handy to have. There are all kinds of wood chisels. This is actually a gasket scraping chisel, but I find it works well for this because it's got a nice sharp edge on it and with a narrow flexible blade. As you can see, it's got a fair bit of flex on it. So what I want to do is line it up fairly close. I'll just tap that up. You want to try to maintain as straight line as you can. So you tap off your first few pieces. Just like that. So now as you can see, I've tapped off those pieces that I cut previously. Now, if you take a close look, it's very rough. So what I want to do next is take my chisel and work my way down to the cut marks, because I set my skill saw previously to go down that 1.5 depth. So if I can take this down as smoothly as possible to all those cut lines, then I should be very close to 1.5 depth. Now the more accurate you want to be, you will make more cuts, and then you can guarantee. Now you can do this with a handsaw as well, but then what you need to do is mark on your board first your length that you want to go. Now you want to make sure the end of your board is square. Now I'm not a carpenter, so I'm not quite doing this proper. The end of this board is rough cut, so I just tried to pick the squarest edge to measure from. Now if you were doing this as a proper carpentry project, you would want that cut off square so your measurement was perfectly accurate. Measure twice, cut once. What you would do is mark your measurement here, and then you would measure 1.5 inches down from your corner the whole way along to this point. And then you would take your measurement here of your 5 inches, and where those two lines crossed, you would make a line on this side. Then you would do the same thing on the other side, and then you could use your handsaw, like that one there, and cut down to that line on each side, making sure, and then you should be fairly square to go along and smooth it off. So I'm going to smooth this off with a file, and I'll break loose the other end and smooth it off, and we'll move on to the next section. Okay, as you can see, I got the second boards of my rabbit hutch up, making it a fairly square structure. You may also notice the window in behind, since I'm not going to be utilizing that and it is Canadian winter. First off, I cut a piece of styrofoam, insulation styrofoam, that just fit, and put it in there tight. I used duct tape around the edges just to seal it off, and then a layer of plastic just to keep it warmer in here. This window at the moment I have left open. As you can see fairly clearly out back. You can see the train tracks there, the drainage runoff, which I'm hoping eventually to have dammed up. You can even see the back hayfield, which hopefully someday we could turn into a permagarden. This window I have also taped off with plastic, just to try to keep it warmer in here. I have yet to seal the door. As you can see light through there, so there's cold air getting in. Canadian winter, you definitely need to have everything sealed off. It's in plus degrees outside right now. The snow is starting to melt. I just thought I'd show you this part of what I have finished for the rabbit structure. As you can see, this board doesn't quite fit perfectly. The reason being is I am using cull lumber, more or less. That was left on the property when I bought it. These 4x4s were left here, so it is warped, but it still maintains strength, so I can use it, because this project isn't about perfection.